The Utah Jazz have hung their hats on their defensive identity and played at a slow pace for the past few years. In the 5 seasons that Quinn Snyder took over as the coach, the Jazz finished in the top 10 for defensive rating 4 times, including 3 consecutive seasons being rated as a top 3 defensive unit. Their defense pretty much guarantees a playoff spot if Rudy Gobert stays healthy. But what has been their Achilles heel for the past few years? Most people will point to their offense, which is true, but they have been hovering around league average in offensive rating. The main reason they haven't gone past the second round in the playoffs is because of their inability to match up defensively. They've lost to the Warriors and the Rockets twice, and both played a lot of small ball to negate Gobert's defensive impact. After the 2019 offseason, they've addressed this problem. In last year's series against the Rockets, the Jazz used the Bucks' extreme defensive strategy as an attempt to neutralize James Harden. Harden's defender will sit on the side or even behind his body and station their center at the front of the rim. This takes away Harden's step-back 3 and dares him to take a mid-range shot or challenge the center at the rim. This did neutralize Harden since he shot well below his season averages, this time missing the floater here. But didn't stop him from getting his teammates going. This time he gets Gobert in the air before dumping it off to Capella. With Gobert stepping up to challenge, Fareed could get the lob behind the defense. Weak side rotations will have to be spot on every time. But more often than not, the off-ball defenders don't rotate down, and they give up a 3. The Rockets didn't even take advantage of this scheme's weakness. Harden missed most of his floaters, and rarely played Tucker as a small ball 5, which would have pulled Gobert out of the paint, resulting in an uncontested layup or open 3. The most successful strategy against a small ball lineup, especially against the Rockets, is to switch everything that involves Harden. This was how the Warriors were able to stop the Rockets' offense in the past. And by doing so, they bench all their slow-footed, traditional bigs. Harden will get his points, but doesn't allow him to create for his teammates, since the other defenders could stay home on their man. Even against the 5-out, Draymond switches onto Harden, keeping a body in front of him and also allowing off-ball defenders to stay home. Once again, the switching scheme doesn't allow penetration. The ball never gets below the free throw line. With a combination of Gobert and Favors, Utah had a great center on the floor for most of the game, but both were much more effective, stationed near the rim. In transition, Favors had to pick up Harden, and a quick crossover gets him into the lane. This forces the defense to rotate, and it gives up an open 3. Against a 5-out, Gobert gets dragged out of the paint and rotates late for the contest. Once again, Gobert is more comfortable in the paint. I know the Jazz rather have Iggy taking a shot instead of Curry, Thompson, or Durant, but that's a wide open corner 3. The Jazz didn't have the personnel to switch everything, and instead played to their roster's strengths. This leads to Utah's under-the-radar signing, Jeff Green. Green had a resurgent year and posted his highest effective field goal percentage of his career. He averaged around 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists in Washington, playing as the power forward and even as a small ball center. The latter part is key for the Jazz. Green isn't a lockdown defender, but he has the athleticism and physical tools to hang with players on the defensive end. In transition, he communicates well and picks up Harris. Green reads him like a book. First he cuts off the drive, stops the spin, and blocks the fadeaway. As the small ball 5, he is aware of when he needs to help off his man. He had 1 foot in the lane, sagging off of Draymond. Green then switches onto Curry after the back screen, runs him off the 3-point line, and Curry misses an off-balance shot. On this switch, Green was able to hang with Curry and contest the shot. Defending isolations is very important in switching schemes, and Green was an above-average isolation defender last season. Against the Hawks, Green switches onto Herter and prevents penetration. The offense gets stagnant with the shot clock winding down, but Prince just makes a very tough shot. I crunched some numbers to see how Jeff Green did when he was playing center. Compared to his overall ratings, Green fared a lot better during his time at center, with a positive net rating of 3.7. Now, Green isn't invincible. Against brute bigs, he struggles to keep them out of the paint. Monroe was able to bully Green and draws the foul. Once again, the size difference allows an easy hook over Green. But that is where Gobert and Davis comes in. If the opponents are playing a traditional big, the Jazz won't need to play small. With Green, he'll give Snyder the option to go small if they do run into the Rockets or Warriors in the playoffs, an option he never had before. Swapping in Mike Conley and Bojan Bogdanovic for Rubio, Favors, and Crowder, there's no doubt that their offense will get better. Bricks like these would become makes with Conley instead of Rubio. They'll probably play Bogdanovic at the 4, which is a huge upgrade offensively. On the kickout by Rubio, Draymond could clog the passing lane on the hammer screen, since Favors isn't a shooting threat. Slotting Bogdanovic here, this would have been a wide open 3. Curry gets switched onto Crowder. Instead of turning it over like he does here, Bogdanovic would have scored using his size advantage. When Favors and Gobert shared the floor with the starters, the Jazz had a plus 5.2 net rating. When swapping out Favors with Crowder, that number jumps to 12.8. Even though their defense slips a bit, it is still elite. Now with Bogdanovic on board, the Jazz will be even better on offense. Defensively, Conley is still a good defender, and while Bogdanovic isn't close to the defenders that Favors and Crowder are, he gives a lot of effort on the defensive side of the ball, and just played the most minutes on a team that finished 3rd in the league in defensive rating. The Jazz can switch 1 through 4 even more on the perimeter, run players off the 3-point line, and funnel them into Gobert. Losing an elite big in Favors will hurt, but Ed Davis is a great backup center, and I think he can replicate what Favors did for the Jazz when he was in the same role. If the Jazz do run into small ball teams like the Rockets or Warriors, benching Davis in favor of Green wouldn't be as hard as benching a starter talent like Favors. The Utah Jazz will cruise through the regular season as long as Gobert is around, especially since matchup doesn't matter as much. Surpassing their 50-win record shouldn't be hard, considering their slow start last season and upgraded firepower in Conley and Bogdanovic. The playoffs is what will matter the most. 3 consecutive early exits in the playoffs might have their front office panicking and reshuffle their roster. There's no way to predict who the Jazz will be matched up with in the playoffs, but for the first time since Quinn Snyder took over, the Jazz have a roster that can match up with almost every team. And that's it, guys. Many don't consider Jazz as title contenders, but they've made some changes that can get them further into the playoffs than they did in previous years. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.